Hello again, this is Preheat. Welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. So it's pretty late and I've been at it for a long time, pretty tired, and I'm trying to keep it down. But I want to give y'all my raw thoughts on Mage after playing a couple hours on the internal alpha. Thankfully, Blizzard has allowed many content creators like myself feel very thankful that I was able to be invited to this and have the privilege to test the class. And I think there's a lot of really cool stuff coming in the expansion. And a lot of interesting ideas. Like, they're trying to streamline a lot of things like utility, defensives, the rotation, and the stat squish itself isn't just a stat squish. It's like a everything squish. Like weak auras are getting squished. Like, it seems like maybe the fight design, also the rotations. There's like a big picture kind of thing where there's a simplification going on. And I understand that, and I get where they're coming from so that they can try to build back up. But I want to show you just some examples and just give you my thoughts on this. So lots of stuff in here is new. I'm not going to talk about all of it, but just to give you an example, like Arcane no longer has another precision and harmony and all these other ways like intuition, glory, incandescence that you get for charge refunds. You just have Arcane Salvo. It's just basically it's just harmony. One talent that I think is especially interesting is Orb Mastery. So basically this is a way for us to consume clear casting with our orb instead of missiles. Essentially allows Spellslinger to have a gameplay loop in AoE where you're mainly just throwing out barrages and orbs. It's actually kind of fun. I think Arcane is definitely interesting. I'm keeping an open mind about it. With Frost, they've redesigned it so there's no more Winter's Chill. You have something called Freeze, and you don't shatter your spells anymore. Instead, whenever you do Flurry, it applies stacks of freezing. Same with Blizzard, if you have certain talents like Frostbolt. Glacial Spike is baked into Frostbolt. Frostbolt turns into Glacial Spike whenever that becomes active. Same goes for Comet Storm. Blizzard turns into Comet Storm. The main cooldown, Icy Veins, is now Ray of Frost. So a lot of concepts and abilities are just being squished together to varying degrees of success. But this freeze debuff that you apply to your target, it actually builds up to 20. So if I Ray of Frost the enemy, right, you can see it building up here. And essentially the idea is once I have that up, I can just use it with Ice Lances. You see Ice Lances consume it, right? And obviously I want to build it back up and then spend it. But yeah, it kind of just ends up being a whole lot of Ice Lance spam. But this is what I talk about whenever I'm referring to the simplicity. But the reason I'm showing you this is because I want to provide context so then you can compare it against Fire. So here is my Fire setup, and in the talents, nothing too crazy, right? Very similar. I'd say Fire is actually the most similar of the specs when it comes to Mage. All the specs are very, very heavily redesigned, but you can see Pyroblast, we still have that. We still have Heating Up and Hot Streak with Fireblast. We still have Combustion as our main cooldown, although the cooldown reduction is now hard baked into it, so there's no uptime CDR stuff baked in to having to constantly attack to get your combustion back, which is actually pretty good. No SKB, no UI. Some returning talents, some new ones. We have Cinderstorm, which is just a proc, Meteor stuff. They did give you an option for Flame Strike, so it goes on your target, which is pretty awesome. But you'll notice whenever I show you my action bars, it's pretty sparse here. And I promise you, I do have all my abilities on my action bars. I could also have Meteor and Flame Strike, I guess, but this is basically it. We've got Fireball, we've got Pyroblast, we've got Fireblast and Combustion. So I mean, if we're looking at how the gameplay should look, assuming that this is correct here, right? Maybe I hardcast a Pyroblast into a Combustion, and then I do a Fireball because I don't have Scorch anymore. Scorch is just not a talent anymore. Same with Phoenix Flames. There is no Phoenix Flame talent. And yeah, maybe I get a proc for Pyroclasm, so I can hardcast that in Combustion, get a little damage out there, extend the Combustion just a little bit. But this is essentially the gameplay loop of Fire, is just get Heating Up, turn it into Hot Streak, and that's kind of it. You're just casting Fireball, Fireball, Fireball. Gee, I sure hope I get a crit. Oh, there's one, right? Before you have I guess some decision process, because you have two ways to get guaranteed crits, right? You've got Phoenix Flame and you've got your Fire Blast, and you kind of use them during your combustion kind of interchangeably, and there's an interesting thought process there for which one am I going to use here? How do I sequence my spells so that I can maximize the damage on my combustion, get the most CDR possible. All of that is cut out. It is just super, super simple. Just literally cast a Fireball until you get a Heating Up. And then once you get a Heating Up, then you're going to turn into a Hot Streak and you're going to cast a Pyroblast. And maybe sometimes you hard cast a Pyroblast for damage if you take that talent, which you may not even take that, right? and this is it. And again, I understand that they're trying to bring the specs into a place where they can like build up from Midnight. Like it's like a reset, you could say, kind of like how Legion was a reset in terms of like a lot of the abilities getting pruned and stuff. But like this is just crazy. Like this is just too far, I think. You know, Fire Mage specifically, I felt was already in a position where it kind of was at that simple level. Like it really felt like the squish had already happened in some ways for it. But I'm worried that maybe this is just like a step too far in that direction. And not every spec is like this. Like there are other specs like Devourer, Devastation. I mean, even just like Arcane and Frost, where it doesn't feel the same way. But I just feel like Fire just, like, what's here? What's my decision process? What sort of thoughts are supposed to go through my head? The only time I have to think is with my cooldown, Fire Blast. But actually, I don't have to think there because I'm just reacting to seeing it heating up and I'm pressing Fire Blast. And I'm just pressing 3 abilities 99% of the time. Maybe I press a Combustion mid-cast, but like Fire Blast, remember, that's cast while casting. So realistically, you're like pressing 2 abilities. It's just Fireball and Pyroblast. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is something that I've already provided feedback on, and I want to get y'all's thoughts because you know, again, I get that we want to make things more simple so that we can make them more complex later. I'm sure Blizzard will eventually, you know, if feedback is there, capitulate and add more complexity, and that'll be a good way for them to you know, to win in a sense, right? Doing what players want. But I just feel like the starting point here is just like so simple that it's kind of confusing to me, like how this is even a thing. But yeah, you try not to be too negative because again, this is very early and I don't want to form too much of an opinion yet. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. We're going to be exploring this later. I'm going to be streaming, you know, the whole time the alpha is available. Would love to hear y'all's thoughts, but just like no Scorch, no Phoenix Flame, no CDR, really no buffs to track, because Feel the Burn isn't really something that you're like tracking. It just happens whenever you turn the heating up into a hot streak. Yeah, I would love to hear what y'all think of this. I'm worried about Fire, but I will say we'll talk more about Arcane and Frost later. Frost has its own thing going on. I don't want to get too much into that or else this will be a really long video. Arcane is interesting. I have some gameplay from some dungeons too that I've been able to do, and I think Arcane is looking pretty fun. But yeah, overall, not impressed with Fire. Gotta say I'm biased because I did like Fire on live, but this is just crazy levels of simple. I feel like maybe just doing like a blanket simplification of every spec is maybe not the best way to go about things, because some specs already had a lot of buttons and a lot of decisions, and other specs had less. And if you're just kind of like ironing every spec out, you know, some will actually keep some of their charm and their decision, and it'll still be interesting to play, while others kind of just end up like this. Anyways, that's going to be it for today. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.